Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for our SimpleWAN webinar that's hosted by 888 VoIP and SimpleWAN. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we begin. As you can see on your dashboard, there is a question section. Please feel free to type in any questions you have during our webinar. We will be having a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so we will be answering your questions at that time. So if you have any, please type away. So I'm going to hand it over to Josh Haselhorst, who's the Wholesale Manager at SimpleWAN, and he will be running through our entire webinar today.
Very good. Thank you, Danielle. My name is Josh Haselhorst. I am the OEM Wholesale Manager for SimpleWAN. Many of you have probably been on trainings with me before, whether it was face-to-face or over the web or even simple phone calls. So even after this, please get my contact information. If you have any questions, you want one-on-one sales training, technical deep dives into that platform, stuff like that, feel free to reach out. For this session, we are going to be talking about SimpleWAN, but we're also going to talk about SD-WAN in general. We're also going to talk about some competitive matrix and kind of the vision and the view of end users and what is SD-WAN, what is software-defined networking, and what your customers think it is. That way it'll be easier for you to identify opportunities and find out if an opportunity is a SimpleWAN use case or a competitive product use case. So what is SimpleWAN? SimpleWAN is a all-in-one networking approach. At its core, it is a cloud firewall with full network analytics, as well as voice QoS. We are designed for the multi-location branch franchise retail environment. And I'll tell you why as we go on. Some SimpleWAN customers, you can see here on the screen, I don't need to go over it. We will talk about a couple of them. Let's talk about one in particular. You have a specific customer that has thousands of locations across the United States and need to be connected to each of those locations for inventory controls. They are, currently at the time using either point-to-point connections, MPLS connections, or VPN for connectivity. If they're doing MPLS connections, when you get that many locations together, it is very, very expensive, very, very difficult to manage, and very, very low bandwidth. So this is where an SD-WAN solution comes in to connect all of those multi-locations together, even in a hub-and-spoke environment or a fully meshed environment. So now I can do inventory controls and connect these locations together without a $800 per site cost. Now it's about $100 a site per cost. So it gives them the flexibility of saving millions of dollars a year, but also giving me that encrypted and secure connectivity to each location. Some of them do connectivity, through SimpleWAN simply for failover. I have a primary internet connection. I'm in the middle of a rural area, very high latency, very low bandwidth, whatever it happens to be. Internet fails. I still need to be able to swipe credit cards, process orders, deliver pizzas, right? So I'm going to add in failover, whether it's a WAN 2 failover from another carrier or an LTE failover, so I can continue to swipe credit cards as my competitors across the street are watching me ring the till. So we can talk about use cases. We can take that offline, call me anytime, and we can talk about some of the wins of where we live. But what is SimpleWAN really at its core? SimpleWAN is SDN, software-defined network. SD-WAN, as you guys know, is a really, really hot topic for pretty much every customer on the planet right now. It's probably one of the hottest emerging technologies and one of the fastest to deploy technologies since VMware. That being said, there are many, many flavors and many, many versions of SDN or SD-WAN, which is software-defined wide area networking. And we'll talk about what it is and what it means. But for SimpleWAN, we are SDN at its core. SD-WAN is simply an application. What we've done is we've collapsed multiple appliances and multiple application software into one simple, easy to use gateway interface. Software-defined networking at its simplest form is simply management and automation. It is a way to be able to embed software into my environment, see all of my locations, see all of the analytics in all of my locations, as well as connect multiple locations. Some SD-WAN vendors out there sell point products and they call it SD-WAN. If I bring in a WAN connection from one carrier and another WAN connection from another carrier and load balance them, that is SD-WAN. Yes, it is. That is a very, very small piece of SD-WAN. Maybe they want a centralized orchestrator where I can see via software every location in my environment that I have to manage. That's SD-WAN. Yes, that's another piece of SD-WAN. Maybe my connectivity. I'm running VPN tunnels from one location to multiple locations or whatnot. And I need a way to manage those VPN tunnels, as well as VPN clients. So I load a piece of software that does that for me. That's SD-WAN. Yes, it is. It is another piece of SD-WAN. So as you can see where I'm going with this, it's multiple appliances and multiple pieces of software. What SimpleWAN is it's taken that entire complexity of multiple appliances and multiple software applications that one or a team of network admins have to manage and collapsed them into one. We didn't redefine or reinvent how firewalls work. We didn't redefine or reinvent how VPN tunnels work. We simply gave a network admin a giant toolbox that is easy to find the wrenches and screwdrivers. So when we're talking issues that multi-location environments have, whether either I'm a managed service provider managing multiple clients, or I'm a network admin whose job it is to manage multiple locations. Now I kind of become the MSP of my own company. The issues that I'm finding at all times is, one, frustrations and time. It is very, very difficult to manage tens, hundreds, thousands of locations in what's my network doing, what's my ISP doing, what's my hosted voice doing. What are my firewalls doing? Do I have to log into each individual location or each individual appliance to find out any kind of analytics, to find out any kind of troubleshooting? This is very, very difficult and very, very hard to do when I have multiple locations. What is the cost of a network outage? If I am that pizza company or that sandwich shop or that, Hallmark gift place, the day before Mother's Day, what happens to me if my primary internet circuit fails? How much money am I losing on a per second, per minute, per day basis? Would it be a good idea to bring in multiple WAN connections from either other carriers or LTE providers? How do I scale? If I'm going to go, open another 14 stores in South Carolina, right? I need to get them all opened at a certain point of time. I need internet services at those locations. How do I ramp those up quickly and easily? Are these monster projects that take literally years to handle? Are these stores and locations, which we would call units in the franchise world, are they easy to spin up, turn up, and get active? The other thing I've got to be concerned with is, am I taking credit card information? Do I need to be PCI compliant? Am I a dental facility or a medical practice like an urgent care or the doc in a box in the Walgreens? Do I need to be HIPAA compliant? How do I know if my network is compliant? How do I know if I've got, the holes patched in my firewall, my usernames, passwords, my VPN connectivities, right? Do I always need to contact that third-party auditing firm to come in and audit my network and certify my network to be compliant? How much does that cost me on a per quarter or annual basis? So these are all very, very valid concerns when we get into those multi-location environments. So who is a SimpleWAN target customer? Well, really a SimpleWAN target customer is what I would consider an MSP, a managed service provider. Now, there's a different variation in managed service providers. Some people think that's a company that does managed technical services for other companies. Well, that is true. That is an MSP. But an MSP can also be an administrative staff that manages multiple locations for example, a franchise environment, right? That's also an MSP. Really what it means is I have a single person or a group of people at a centralized control point that manages multiple locations throughout the country. I need to manage my networking. I need to manage my gear, my equipment, my power consumption. I need to manage my billing. I need to be able to manage all that. They're all MSPs. So these are really companies that don't have internal IT staff at every single location. These are companies that really can't afford to, if I have, hundreds, if not thousands of locations, I need to be connected, go get an MPLS circuit from AT&T for $800 a month on a 1.5 meg stream, right? These are companies that really need all services from firewall to connectivity that is simple, easy to deploy, simply plug it in, kind of have a set it and forget it attitude and mentality, and have the local store manager close the door and run away once it's powered up. Now, as the MSP, I can manage all of these locations through a centralized dashboard, or what some companies call an orchestrator. Basically, what we're doing is simply making your life easier. So when you're talking to your customers, you're asking these questions, everything is really based on use case. When we hear about SD-WAN providers, Cisco, VeloCloud, Acessa, Big Leaf, Ariaka, Meraki, on and on and on. Every one of these manufacturers lives in specific use case environments. Cisco say they fit in every single client study doesn't mean that's actually accurate. There's a very difference between marketecture and architecture. They're not the right fit for every single company. Large iron is not the right fit for tiny little franchise shops like a Foot Locker or a Baby Gap. But all of these companies that you can see off to the right-hand side there, they all do SD-WAN, but they all do a specific kind of SD-WAN that fits into a specific use case. However, if your customers are looking for that all-in-one solution, not an over-the-top SD-WAN, not simply manage VPNs, not simply give me connectivity only, right? If they're looking for an all-in-one solution that is the only box that resides in the wiring closet and handles SD-WAN, firewall, routing, voice QoS, cybersecurity, content filtering, WAN failover, managed Wi-Fi, the whole 9 yards, that's where SimpleWAN lives. If they're looking simply to connect one building to another building, and they've already got, SonicWall NSAs and Cisco's and Fortinets for firewall stuff like that, that's not a SimpleWAN fit. Those guys are usually, do-it-yourselfers. They usually have technicians on staff for care and feeding for the animal in the wiring closet. We are designed for the guy that doesn't care and feed for the animal in the wiring closet. We do everything for them. So if you're talking to your clients and they're talking about, I have multi-location environments. I haven't upgraded firmware on my firewalls in 250 locations in the last 2, 3, 4 years. It's becoming impossible for me to manage my network environment. It's getting very, very complex, very, very expensive. This is where SimpleWAN comes in, eases the pain of that network admin, gives them the all-in-one solution that they can simply enable or disable specific services. This is where SimpleWAN fits. So when you're talking to customers, again, we go back to what is SD-WAN? What is SDN? Really, it's not an easy concept to talk about sometimes. And the reason being is because of marketing money from the big players like a Cisco, $56 million a year in marketing, the word SD-WAN has been kind of watered down to where it now means so much to so many different people as well as so many different manufacturers. Your end users, hear about SD-WAN and talk, well, I got a ton of VPN tunnels and I need to manage them. Yeah, that's an SD-WAN software, but what's the use case? Is that all you're trying to accomplish? Do you need security features? Do you need compliancy? These are conversations that really need to be had when it's not just I need SD-WAN for an MPLS failover. What else are they doing? What else do they need? Will an all-in-one solution fit, or does a point product fit what they need today? Really, it's all about educating. So I encourage everybody, please get with us when you're talking to a client, you're talking about SD-WAN, you're talking about cloud firewall, And let's make sure that it's the right use case for SimpleWAN. Maybe it's the right use case for Acessa or VeloCloud. But let's not just talk SD-WAN and start going out and quoting SD-WAN just because we think that's what the client needs, because the client only thinks what they need from what they hear and read, and sometimes it can be very, very misleading. So what are some of the mistakes and the common objections? A lot of guys, get the SimpleWAN product. They see the cost of it, their gross margins of it, and get crazy excited. They see the power of it, what it can do as far as management and ease of use and ease of deployment. And sometimes they force feed it into environments that it simply doesn't belong. So some of the things that we talk about are, hey, I've got a customer that, has contracts or managed services contracts with, a firewall provider. They're running SonicWall, Cisco, Fortinet, whatever it happens to be. But yet now they want to do SD-WAN for connectivity or software for management, stuff like that. Those are point products, and that's not a SimpleWAN fit. SimpleWAN is the firewall. You can't firewall a firewall. So that Cisco, that SonicWall, that Fortinet, that needs to get out of my way so I can do my job as far as an analytics standpoint. If you install SimpleWAN inside an environment that has an existing firewall, the job of that existing firewall is to block my network analytics. And the network analytics is really the power of the platform. What's another objection? Another objection is, hey, look, I've got 14 locations, and I've got MPLS circuits at each location for connectivity. Okay, some SD-WAN providers will do what we call over the top and drop in SD-WAN in case that MPLS connection fails. SD-WAN is the failover. Again, that's a SD-WAN play, and it's a point product SD-WAN play. That is not SimpleWAN. SimpleWAN is not here to commingle with an existing MPLS circuit, for failover or enhancement. SimpleWAN is there to remove that MPLS circuit and give them higher bandwidth, better security. So what are some example customers? Who's really using this and why? Well, we have, as some of you know, we have a ton of franchises. We have a ton of pizza franchises. A lot of these guys really, they needed a cloud firewall. They needed PCI compliance. But the driver, and this is why we need the use case to talk to your customer. What is the driver? What closes this deal quicker? The driver for this one was simply LTE failover. I need to be able to swipe credit cards and deliver pizzas while my competitors across the street are staring at me when the internet goes down. So that was the huge piece of it. The product being an all-in-one solution and a monthly add-on as far as services and solution is, it gets sticky as I go. Maybe, March is coming and I don't want my store manager, sitting in the back room watching March Madness all day. Okay, I need to add content filtering. How hard is that? I click a button, I block ESPN.com. Right? So the product gets stickier and stickier the longer they have it because you guys are adding services into that platform. And once they start adding services into the platform, they do not rip and replace this. The reason being is ripping and replacing a SimpleWAN product that's doing the all-in-one services. Now you have to go buy 6 appliances and 6 different pieces of software. That is an absolute nightmare of a project. The SimpleWAN product gets stickier and stickier the longer it stays in. Why do hosted voice providers use it? A lot of you guys on this call are hosted voice providers, hosted voice services. You resell hosted voice, the whole 9 yards. Well, how do I get a hosted voice platform running over public IP, right, on a shared internet service, quality voice calls? Without an edge appliance that gives voice prioritization, you don't. It's best effort. It's not a matter of if your client is going to complain about voice QoS or packet loss or stuff like that. Of course they're going to complain about it on shared internet. So you need a device that gives that voice QoS. There are devices out there that's all they do, right? You put a little gateway, little switch in my wiring closet. It gives me my voice QoS that I need, but that's all it does, right? So if a company needs, all I need is voice QoS. Again, I have on my own firewalls, my whole infrastructure, all that other stuff. Not a SimpleWAN fit. Go find another product that does simply voice QoS. For SimpleWAN, it's just a piece of the product. So why SimpleWAN? It's really the only way to manage with full network analytics, multi-location environments. even if I do have those small little sonic wall TZs at my 100 locations or whatnot, I physically have to log into every single one of those to do any diagnostics, troubleshootings, or moves, adds, and changes. In a Simple WAN world, we're managing it in one simple, easy-to-use dashboard that I can access from my cell phone from the beach in Barbados. No more truck rolls, no more leaving on a Friday for the network admin and then getting called in on Saturday morning because somebody unplugged a switch or the system needs to get rebooted or something like that. The whole point of it is, you know, leave on Friday, go enjoy family picnics. If you have to fix anything, log into the dashboard, fix it from there. No more truck rolls, no more driving, no more local IT staff or support needed. So let's talk about some of our product roadmap. And I'm looking at the PowerPoint piece and it's not showing anything, so I'm going to open up another doc. We'll do a Q&A session here in a second. Let me exit out of this and get into the roadmap here. Well, we could just speak to it also. So product roadmap for what we're looking at in Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. As you guys know that have been using SimpleWAN, we are a software development company. The only people in sales is myself, OEM Wholesale Manager, and my VP of Sales for Channels, Brian Perdue. Everybody else is software dev. We are not the geniuses of the world, and we didn't reinvent any of these technologies. We just made them easier. However, we do have customers and end users that from time to time come in and ask us, hey, if SimpleWAN could do blank, 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 that would be great. And now I can sell thousands of these things, right? So our software dev team is constantly working. What's coming out in Q1? As most of you know, we do have the Ubiquity Unify controller embedded into the dashboard. So I can hang access points anywhere, adopt them into the system, and I can manage all that system and analytics through my central dashboard as well. We are rolling out the latest and greatest Ubiquity firmware in Q1 that is going to not only manage the access points, but all of the Ubiquity product line access points as well as switches. So that's one thing that's coming out. Let's talk about security. What's going to happen in security this quarter? This quarter, Q2, Q1. We are partnering with a third-party security company called Komodo. You guys may have heard of Komodo or competitive companies like Alien Vault. We chose to partner with Komodo for unified threat management as well as full ASV scanning. Now, what is ASV scanning? If I have to be HIPAA or PCI compliant, in order for me to get my certificate of compliance so I can do my business legally, I have to have an ASV scan in my network to certify my network either on an annual basis or a quarterly basis. Even with SimpleWAN activating cybersecurity, which gives them their monthly penetration testing as well as their full PCI and HIPAA compliance reports, it doesn't make a network compliant. It simply shows the holes of where that network needs fixing in order to be compliant, in order to be confident that I can go out to an ASV, go out to a network auditing firm, and bring in comfortably that firm knowing I'm going to pass my audit and get my certificate of compliance. What the ASV scanning is going to do in the newest version of the cybersecurity package is it's going to actively remotely scan these networks. Once everything is green in my dashboard, I can download my certificate of compliance. This is going to save healthcare operators as well as retailers thousands and thousands of dollars in time by being able to load this in and just click the scan and download the certificate of compliance. If anybody has questions on that, please reach out to me. It can get technical in how it works, so let's have a chat. Let's see, SimpleWAN APIs. Yes.
Real quick, I was able to pull up the product roadmap. So if you are able to, if you're not able to see it on your screens right now, please let me know in the question section. Thanks. Go ahead.
Beautiful. I see it right now. SimpleWAN APIs.
Perfect.
APIs are built for service providers for not only auto billing, but also auto provisioning. So APIs will be coming out in Q1. The Advanced 2 units, which is probably the most popular unit, as you guys know or do not know. We have 3 units. We have an Advanced 2 that has a capacity of up to 480 meg of throughput. which is roughly 300 connected devices. Above that is a rack mount, which has the capacity of up to 1 gig. This is usually for service providers. And then above that, we have the VM version, which is simply the software that gets loaded into a virtual server, usually at a service provider data center. And the capacity is simply up to the gear that's in that data center. And Advanced 2 right now has a quad-core processor, and currently we are using 2 out of the 4. Here in the next 30 days-ish, I think it's even quicker than that, we are using the capacity of all 4 cores, and we are going to near double that speed. So now your larger clients can get away with using still the small Advanced 2 unit. The Cloud UTM integration, that is the Komodo piece I spoke about. That's the Unified Threat Management. One of the big things that we've been getting, especially for schools, is I am hanging my IP cameras out for malicious issues, graffiti, break-ins, stuff like that. The problem is these guys hang an IP camera out and around the campus, plug it directly into a network switch, bypassing the firewall. Well, that's an open IP address, which means you are absolutely 100% hackable. For the guys that do, plug them in and get them through the firewall. The problem with that is managing those new IP cameras. The problem is also managing the actual DVR, which is storing those images. So we are going to embed into the dashboard the full DVR integration for those IP clouds right out of the dashboard. Something else we're working on is one click to Azure. That one is beyond my technical capacity at this point. This is still with the software dev teams. I'm not even positive exactly what it's going to do. If you have questions, get a hold of me. Let's schedule a conversation with one of our developers. And same thing with the AI integration, machine learning. That is something that beyond my technical capacity as well. So again, if you have questions on those last 2, please reach out. We'll get you a call with one of the dev teams so you guys can fully understand what that stuff's going to do.